In my last video, I laid out a series of coincidences surrounding Tommaso Cian: the 4-hour window, the behavior on the porch, the night vision gloves, the power of attorney signed 8 months before his mother-in-law vanished, and the FBI returning to his home 5 separate times.
It is day 24 since our mom was taken in the dark of night from her bed. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home. We also know that she may be lost. She may already be gone.
That video reached a lot of people, and it raised a question I deliberately did not answer. If Tommaso planned this, he did not execute it alone. The man in the FBI doorbell footage is described as 5'9" to 5'10", with an average build. Tommaso appears taller than that. He does not match the height estimate. That is the biggest weakness in the theory I presented, and I left it open because I was still reviewing records.
That video last night from the family.
Right. I think they're playing this out. This is about all they have right now, and they are, they're making it very clear that they will pay. The question really is, and I'm very skeptical of this, is this really a kidnapping? Does somebody really have her, and is she really alive? And I don't think we have the answers to that question right now. I don't think her proof of life has been credibly authenticated at this point. So I think, you see them searching other places. You see them searching in the backyard there at that so-called manhole. They're still rounding out the investigation, and so I think they're giving some leeway for some possibility that this is not a kidnapping. And as I said, I'm very skeptical that it is one in the first place.
Since then, I have gone through Pima County court filings, property records, archive materials, and social media accounts dating back to 2007. One name kept appearing next to Tommaso Cian: Dominic Aaron Lee Evans. Evans has felony convictions in Pima County for burglary, robbery, theft, embezzlement, and DUI. He lives in the Tucson area, within minutes of Nancy Guthrie's home. He fits the general physical description released by the FBI. This video is about him.
Well, first to the crime scene aspect of it. They could have found something as simple as a turned over cup of coffee or a dropped cup of coffee, or her purse was on the ground, or her phone was strewn in a place that they'd never seen before. But one thing I'd like to key on, if I could, is that even though the caregivers may be great people, what I always recommend to my clients, and I'm sure Chris does when he does his threat assessments, we always tell our clients to do a background check on everyone that lives in the home or is a close family member of the person you're hiring, because you have to look at that threat vector to determine who's doing what in that home. And the reason I say that is because even if the caregiver is just the most wonderful person, if she has one or more people in her home that are, let's say, a gangbanger or a criminal, or they're into some type of other behavior, they may just listen to their mom say, oh, today we went shopping and she spent $700 and she's so lucky and her kids love her so much. They may know a lot more than people realize.
The connection goes back to 2007. Dominic Evans, a drummer, connected with guitarist Walter Gonzalez Jr. through Craigslist. Around the same time, Tommaso Cian, who had recently moved to the United States from Italy, responded to a classified ad in Tucson Weekly. The three formed a band called Early Black. They recorded an album in Tucson and played local shows across Arizona. They built a working relationship that lasted nearly 2 decades. By the time Nancy Guthrie disappeared in January 2026, Tommaso and Dominic had known each other for 19 years. 19 years is not a casual friendship. It is long-term trust and familiarity. If investigators are considering the possibility that the suspect on the porch did not act alone, that length of relationship matters.
Well, the snapshot we are getting from investigators is that there's a lot of evidence that they've been dealing with, and a glove and other gloves have been talked about a lot publicly, and they have taken testing of those. They have established DNA profile, And then they've compared it against that database that you referred to, which includes persons all across the country who've been arrested or charged or convicted with a crime. There are differing laws state by state about when someone who's taken into custody must provide their DNA. But it is a vast database, and certainly if there were a criminal history, that would be a good way to identify a potential depositor of that DNA. Then, is it in some way linked to the Guthrie case? That's another big question. So work is being done. There are hundreds of investigators who are on this case working on a stream of different types of approaches. We know, for example, that they have been canvassing gun stores in the area. Why? Because the suspect seen on that doorbell video had a weapon, had a holster that had some interesting identifying markers that authorities are trying to get a better read on. Where was it purchased? What could they learn about that?
Whoever entered Nancy Guthrie's home crossed that threshold. Now, to be clear, no law enforcement agency has publicly named Dominic Evans as a suspect. The FBI has not connected him to the investigation. The sheriff has not mentioned his name. Everything discussed here is based on publicly available records.
That video last night from the family.
Right. I think they're playing this out. This is about all they have right now, and they're making it very clear that they will pay. The question really is, and I'm very skeptical of this, is this really a kidnapping? Does somebody really have her, and is she really alive? And I don't think we have the answers to that question right now. I don't think her proof of life has been credibly authenticated at this point. So I think, you see them searching other places. You see them searching in the backyard there at that so-called manhole. They're still rounding out the investigation, and so I think they're giving some leeway for some possibility that this is not a kidnapping. And as I said, I'm very skeptical that it is one in the first place.
This is not an accusation. It is an examination of why his name is being discussed online. The FBI described the suspect as a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10", average build, visible facial hair, carrying a 25-liter Ozark Trail backpack, and possibly showing a marking on the wrist. Former FBI profiler Jim Clemente noted that if the visible marking is a tattoo, it could significantly narrow the field.
Someone out there knows something that can bring her home. If you've been waiting and you haven't been sure, let this be your sign to please come forward.
Online investigators compared that description to individuals in Tommaso's circle. Evans became a focus because he fits within the physical range described. That does not prove anything. Doorbell footage is low resolution and cannot confirm identity, but the description does not exclude him. The height detail is important. If Tommaso is taller than the FBI estimate, then he likely is not the man on the porch. But that does not eliminate the possibility of two people, one planner and one executor. The FBI has confirmed that two separate DNA profiles were recovered in connection with this case. One from a glove found approximately 2 miles from Nancy's home, another from biological evidence inside the house.
She may have already gone home to the Lord that she loves. If this is what is to be, then we will accept it. But we need to know where she is. We need her to come home. For that reason, we are offering a family reward.
The profiles do not match each other. Two profiles mean at least two individuals contributed DNA. That makes an accomplice theory reasonable. Investigators are reportedly pursuing genealogical DNA analysis, the same method used in other high-profile cases. If either profile connects through family databases, the circle narrows quickly.
I call this person the offender. The offender's behavior as he's walking around the porch prior to going inside the residence, he doesn't seem nervous. He's walking at a comfortable pace. He doesn't appear agitated. He appears to be actually relaxed. So I think that's really important when you put it into this perspective. He is about ready to go into a home where he doesn't belong and kidnap the person inside the home. And yet this is how relaxed that he is. So I think that tells us something about not only his personality, but it certainly could also suggest that this person is comfortable in that neighborhood and maybe even comfortable having been in the home before, because it helps to have minimized his
Geography
risk.
also matters. Evans has lived in the greater Tucson area, including locations within driving distance of the Catalina foothills. Proximity alone does not prove involvement, but in cases like this, access and distance are part of the equation. January 23rd has also surfaced as a possible earlier date of suspicious activity. If investigators compare cell tower data from January 23rd and February 1st and find two devices appearing in both locations, that becomes significant. Phones leave trails even when people believe they are careful. As of now, Nancy Guthrie has been missing for weeks. Law enforcement has received tens of thousands of tips. Hundreds of investigators have been assigned. A $200,000 reward is in place. The FBI is tracking backpack purchases, reviewing firearm-related sales, and analyzing DNA evidence. The case now depends on forensic results. If the DNA identifies someone with no connection to Tommaso or Dominic Evans, this theory collapses. If it identifies someone within that circle, the framework holds.
What gives me hope is the sheriff said it's a mixed sample. If that DNA is mixed with Nancy's DNA, then we know that is the person that took her.
Right now, Dominic Evans matters for one reason. He addresses the height discrepancy that weakens the original theory. If Tommaso is too tall to be the man on the porch, the question becomes whether someone else executed the plan.
We received your message and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
That is not proof. It is a working framework. The DNA will confirm or reject it. Until then, the investigation is ongoing. No one named here has been charged. The evidence will determine the direction of this case.